Why are boundaries so important when you're grieving? In fact, boundaries are so important in every single area of your life, at every stage of your life. But when I look back at my grieving journey, one of my biggest regrets, and I don't have many, is that I didn't set strong enough boundaries. I wish I had have set more firm boundaries. Because what you will find is that whenever you're grieving, all natural laws of privacy and boundaries go out the window. It's like there's a whole new playbook and you just don't understand it. Boundaries, the real simple definition, if you want to boil it down to its easiest denominator, it's what is okay and what is not okay. And we feel like, I felt like growing up that, boundaries were unloving and, be good, behave, be quiet, and don't speak up for yourself because it's better to be polite. But really, what happens then is that you actually start to foster a sense of resentment, anger towards the other person, and also self directed as well for not speaking up for yourself. It is also important to acknowledge that, hold the belief that people are doing the best they can with the level of consciousness that they have, but you are the sole person who's responsible for letting people know what is okay and what is not. So, a couple of sort of tips when you lose somebody and when comes to you, what you'll find is that people feel like it's okay to ask you every single detail about your private life, whether that is your finances, your relationship, what your plans are for moving forward, where you're going to live, what you're going to do. Now, I personally don't ask, I like to be asked a lot of questions in general. So whenever that really ratcheted up, it was just really annoying for me from a personal level. But when I stepped back, I was like, you wouldn't ask a normal person this question. You wouldn't ask them about their life insurance, how much money they had, where they were going to live. So, what gives you the right to ask me? And I wish I had been firmer with, just the simple tactic of, why do you ask? Why are you interested in that? You don't have to be rude about it, but you can just push back and say, actually, no, that's not okay to be asking me those questions. Um, the other boundary that I would set around grieving is, say what you want to say, grieve how you want to grieve, be how you want to be. Don't expect yourself or force yourself to fit into somebody else's timeline or expectation of how grief should be done, because they don't know. They've never been here. And even if they have been in grief, every single grief journey is different. No two of them are the same. There's no roadmap. So just remember that, this is your own personal sacred journey, and don't don't fall prey to having to do it somebody else's way, basically. Another thing will come up around the funeral and arrangements and what type of funeral you want to have. Take full control of that. That's your domain and that's your responsibility, and that is, your final send off for the love of your life. And definitely welcome input, people, but just know that the final decision lays with you. Um, Also, I would have a boundary around communication. People mean well, people want to communicate with you a lot, but it is very, very, very overwhelming. And very early on, one thing I did do was give myself full permission to not reply to messages, texts, or cards, because that was just an extra burden and pressure on top of me that I didn't need. And it was such a release once I did that. And also, another thing is, check in with yourself in terms of your intuition. Who can I trust and who can I not trust? Because a lot of people rush forward, but sometimes not always for the best of intentions. So just use your discernment and your intuition, and just remember that you are the person who has to set the boundary, and it can be hard. People will ask you for belongings that you might not be ready to part with, and I do suggest giving away belongings. People do want to have mementos, but it has to be at a time in which you are ready to do so, and don't be rushed to fit into somebody else's timeline, because once you give that item away, and if you weren't ready, trust me, you will be super resentful, and it will take you a long time to heal that little, that wound that you've created for yourself. Boundaries are beautiful. They are a gift that you give to yourself, and they're also a gift that you give to the other person, because then you come from a place of love, compassion, honesty, integrity. You might seem a little bit less sweet, but trust me, you will be oh so much more loving and coming from a place centered deep within you, and a place of true, true love. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that this helps in any way, and if you would like to find out more about working with me and how I can support you, feel free to DM me. I would love to hear from you and how I can support you on this journey. Lots of love.